Hi friends, it's Julia here. Today I'm creating a layout for the Use Your Stuff Challenge blog for challenge number 251, and it's a bingo challenge. And the bingo that I chose was enamel dots, bling, pink, the color pink, and stamping. Rather than doing stamping, I opted to do a mixed media background, which for me is kind of unheard of. I took that stencil that I showed you at the beginning and used the modeling paste to create a wood grain background. And so on half of it, I had used a gold color, and then the other half I had used a green and white color. And so I put those, I put them across the back side, and then I had set the layout. I had set the base page aside because I wasn't sure how I was going to use it, or if it was just going to be one of those pieces of paper that I practice with. Because I'm not a terrific fan of mixed media, and I don't do it very often. And so I opted to cover up the gold section because it just wasn't going to work with the photo. And the mixed media was actually the green modeling paste towards the bottom, and then I kind of mixed it up in towards the top, and then I used just some of the white paint that I had in the kit as well, and I strung that up across there as well. And I love that it lay there in my kit for a good long while before I finally decided to scrapbook it. And when I pulled this photo out, I thought, oh, how perfect is that? The background in the photo towards the top is white sky with trees in it, and then at the bottom is the green. And if you look at the mixed media on the background, it has that white towards the top and then the green at the bottom that mimics the photo. For the pink of the challenge, I used that background on the left side, the background coral and pink with pink flower piece of paper, and so I just laid that across the whole back side there. And I know that side is very fair pink, but it just wasn't the side that I wanted to use. I wanted to add a floral component in here, and especially with the 6x6 piece, because that's that dark corally red, and then it has a different shade of pink, a darker shade of pink than the background. But it worked as well to add the pink in. So, okay, so the mixed media background I used in place of the stamping. So that's the thing about doing a challenge someplace. And the whole premise behind the Use Your Stuff blog challenge is that you use your stuff. And for me, using my stuff as far as mixed media goes is kind of tough. I have some of the supplies, but it's really not my thing because I don't like to get uber messy, and I don't like to stop and have to take time to go clean my supplies like my stencils and things. So it's not a very good process for me. I would much rather do stamping on a layout because it's very easy, but I was trying to challenge myself to do something with the modeling paste that I added into the kit, and and then use it. So here you see I'm just adding down a chipboard element. It was a border strip, and I cut the chevron-y, arrowy aspect out to put across the back of the layout to act as almost a shelf. And then I opted to, rather than use foam adhesive to lift it up, I used this fun foam that I got from, I think, Walmart. And it's the self-adhesive kind, but rather than do that, I just stuck it down, the adhesive backing side down, and then just used the ATG tape on top of it. And I left a bit of a gap there to go over the chipboard piece, the arrow piece along the bottom. And so now I'm just going to play around with my title, and I'm going to use that cork word there that says celebrate. And I'm also going to use a separate font, and it is a thicker font for the word this. And then again, I'm going to use a different font, and I love doing mixed font titles. And I just left it on the carrier sheet, that word, to kind of move things around. And then the word this, I just tacked down right there, and it didn't stick very hard. When I get to the end of this layout, I go back and I add a little tiny bit of liquid adhesive behind that, as well as behind the other chipboard font that I'm going to add to say moment. The title is Celebrate This Moment. And so usually you don't have to put any adhesive behind the foam thickers, but because it was sitting on top of that mixed media paint and the texture paste there, I decided to put just a tiny bit behind the I and the S, just to help it stay down on that side. And so this font, I actually have a couple of sets of. I love it. I did buy it at Tuesday Morning, but it's a beautiful font, and it is ombre effect with green. And it's a very, very pale shade of green, almost white to a darker shade of green. And so looking through there to create the word in my title that says moment, I don't have a letter E. I do have several F's, but I thought, you know, it might be easier to create an E from the letter B. And I just cut off the little loop-de-loops that go around on the letter B. And it made a perfect E. Trimmed down the inside just a touch. And once it's on the layout, you can't hardly tell that it's not originally an E. If you look super duper close, I guess you could. Anyway, I call that Frankensteining my alphabets to get what I want. I know a lot of people call it MacGyvering as well. And so I lay my alphabet on the edge of my ruler, which I do. If you've ever seen my videos, I would rather do this than put it on wax paper and move it around. I just would rather do it like this. And so I'm debating where I'm going to put it, and I don't want to put it down on top of that red and pink paper, the 6x6 paper, so I opt to move that up and then set it right on top of that 6x6 paper there, just to kind of give it some, almost a shelf to set it on there. And when this is all done, I go back and add liquid adhesive behind that font as well. And then that little chipboard piece with the saying on it, really, really pretty little saying. It says, life is like a camera. Focus on what's important. Capture the good times. Develop from the negatives. And if things don't work out, take another shot. So that'll go there too. For my enamel dots for the bingo challenge, I opted to use these little triangle enamel dots. Some of them are glittered and some of them are just plain. And so I'm going to use several different ones in different sizes and different glitters to just put arrows to the photo. And I don't remember if I said it, but the photo is of my sister and her 2 children. You can kind of get a real view of how tall her kids are. She's pretty tall. It's kind of hard to tell in this photo, but she's like 5'10", 5'11", and her son is like 6'4", 6'5". He's a tall kid, and her daughter's just about as tall as she is. So now for the bingo challenge, I have enamel dots, I have the color pink, and I have, rather than stamping, I have the mixed media background. The only other thing that I have to do is add some bling. So I'm going to look through there, but before, I'm going to add some here in just a second. But before I get to that, I decided I want to use some of this washi tape on there because I haven't used the washi tape near enough. And so what I opt to do is to put it down by that chipboard arrow piece. And when I put it down as a whole piece, it takes up too much room. And so you can't see that background paper very much. So what I decided to do is, I was thinking about moving the chipboard up, and then I thought, no, I'll do what I've seen other people do, and that's tear it in half. Tear the washi tape in half. And so I do that, and I add it down there. one piece on either side, and then by the time it's all said and done, you can't see it. It's so light, but I know it's there, so that's all that matters, right? So I get that put down there. Don't you hate it when the washi tape curls up on you? And then you have to fight it to get it to lay down. That was kind of the struggle that I was having there. So I put the straight edge against the chipboard piece and then the torn edges down from that. And I just tore off a bit there at the end. So it doesn't go completely across the back end, but it does span both sides of the photo. Not sure. Oh, I tore another little piece off. And so I pull this ribbon out to use on this layout too. And it's a very dark brown and pink ribbon. And I decide I'm going to tie a bow in it. And so I just, I think here in just a second I'm going to cut off a piece of that rather than try and create a bow with it still onto the I guess I did leave it, making this way more difficult than it needs to be. So I tie a little knot in it. I'm getting it moved around where I want it. And now I'm going to make a bow. I thought about leaving it just with the knot in it. I think that would have looked really, really cute, but I wanted to try a bow out first, and I really like how the bow looks. Sorry it's taken so long to make the bow. I've actually sped this up. Still working on getting my bow straight. Finally get it to an acceptable level and just cut off the edges there, the leftover bits and pieces. And so I'm really liking how that looks. And so then I'm debating on what I'm going to do, what I'm going to put down next. And I think I've got rub-ons pulled out, and so I think I'm going to go ahead and add a few rub-ons. And these are really old guys. I really didn't know if they would work or not, but I thought, well, why not give it a shot? Super impressed that they did work. I think they're old making memories, and they are from forever ago. They could be like 10 years old or something. I mean, they're old. And so I get out a tool to put the rub-ons down with, and I start rubbing on. I thought I cut this part out. Maybe I cut it out here in just a minute. I started putting the rub-ons down. I don't think I left all of it in. I sure hope I didn't. And so voila, they stuck down. Totally impressed with that. So the last part of the bingo challenge is to use bling. And so in the middle of these flowers, I go back and I add some bling pieces. I have some close to my heart bling pieces that are almost a silvery color. And then I have some little tiny bitty blings that are pink. I've got those pulled out and I use those in the center of the flowers. Sorry guys, I thought I had cut out the bulk of these rub-ons, putting them down, because I put them in 3 different spots. I put them there below the enamel dots. I put them over to the left of the Celebrate title, and then I'm going to put them down in the bottom corner, on the left bottom corner, to make a 3rd embellishment cluster down there. I've got the layout here in front of me, and just looking at these rub-ons now, I am just completely and utterly amazed that they turned out so very good. And they've held up all these years. I've used them off and on over the years, and I'm just totally impressed with how they've worked. And it's like any other rub-on, you have to work at it a little bit. And so these may be a little more so than if they were a little bit newer. I think I had to put a little more elbow grease into it than I normally would have if they were newer. But they worked, so I can't complain too a whole lot. So there, I have the rub-ons down in 3 separate places, and you can see I'm happy with that. I'm trying to decide if I want to put them anyplace else or add any more. So I know I'm going to put this little saying down that I read to you earlier, adding some adhesive on there, and I'm just going to add it right there straight down to the paper. I'm not going to add any foam adhesive or anything to the back of it. I'm just going to lay it just like that. The only bad thing about when I put that there is right below that on the left bottom of it, it created a gap. And so in that gap, I thought I need something. I have to put something there to fill it because I don't like creating those gaps like that. So what I did was I had pulled out the butterfly thinking that I was going to use it someplace. And so I'm looking around thinking, okay, where? How about in that little spot that's kind of annoying me? So down it goes into there. So I'm looking to see what else I have pulled out for the kit. And I have this little sheet of they're not enamel. They're almost like puffy stickers, but they're a little firmer. Anyway, maybe they are like enamel butterflies. But anyway, I have those 2 left, and so I opt to put them down. And use up, the last bits on that adhesive sheet. And now I'm going to add in the little bits of Bitty Bling and also of the gray bling from Close to My Heart. And like I said, I think I mentioned this at the start, I used a sketch, and it's from Sketches in Time, and it's number 260 as the base of this layout. It's what inspired me to get moving on this one. And it was for the Use Your Stuff challenge on their blog, and it's challenge number 251. So if you're interested in playing along, you don't have to follow along just at the same time. Just if you want to upload it to the links there, you have to do it by a certain date. But I go back and do old challenges all the time on other blogs so that I'm using my stuff, because that's ultimately the goal, right, is to use your stuff. And I love how this layout turned out. I'm going to add the date when the photo was taken, and I'm going to pull out that green font again here in just a minute and put it down there. And the date was March of 2015. And so I'm just going to put the numbers down there and then add a dash in. Nothing fancy for the date. And then after I complete the layout, get everything done, which I'm nearly there, what I do is I go back and I added some liquid adhesive, some Scotch tacky glue down behind the thicker fonts. And that's it. That's my layout completed. Thanks, guys, for sticking around and watching my video. Thanks for subscribing for those of you who do. And I would love for you to hit the like button. And for those of you who aren't subscribed, I would love for you to subscribe. I'm just showing you that I'm going to put that liquid glue behind the chipboard pieces. Anyway, thanks for sticking around, guys, today. I appreciate you. Have a great day.